When the war was in Sierra Leone and it was moving down to the city, on my way one evening, God said to me, when you go this night, anoint every part of your home.
Welcome back to another episode of Dad and Eunice Study the Bible. I'm here with my father, Eddie Lavallee. He is the pastor of the New Era of Harvest Ministry International. And we're going to continue our series from where we left off, I believe, last week. And also, if you guys have any questions or you have any contributions to this series that we're doing, please feel free to go ahead and comment it down below. We would love to hear from you, and do not forget to share this video with your friends. That's how we get more we gain more traction, and we're able to keep this series up for as long as possible. So don't forget to do that. And Dad, you can go ahead and take it away.
Yes, the last discussion was, I believe, was great, and we want to take up from that point. You know, we've got to the guy that people call the flawed guy by the name of Noah. And we want to see what was the deal that God had with Noah the last time. Now we are looking at a scenario where giants are now in the world. The population has increased. And it's like God was dissatisfied with the behavior of people and all that was going around in the world by then. And you realize that the word started, like corruption started coming into play. This is the first time God is using the word corrupt. That the nation has gone corrupt. The people are corrupt. The world is corrupt. And when we look at our day-to-day, that word is rampant.
Yeah.
Almost everywhere you go, people talk about corruption. In the days of Noah, corruption actually would be like not doing the things that God is expecting you to do, contrary to his will.
Yeah.
So in the form of corruption, it's like doing or misbehaving, doing the wrong things. The obligations were no longer to God. Man did whatever they felt like doing.
Yeah.
And so God decided to do something about this.
Yeah. And I believe we were on chapter 6, verse 8 was the last verse that we read last week.
Exactly.
And also, if you haven't watched last week, we're going to go ahead. For our Facebook fans, we won't be able to put a chapter on the thing, but for our YouTube fans, we'll put a link to the other video on at the very top. So, you know, just if you wanted to see the previous one, you can click on that.
Okay. So taking it from the verse we stopped at last, we said we stopped at verse 8. And when you look at verse 8, just to piggyback on that, it says, 7 says, so the Lord said, I will destroy man, whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, creeping thing and birds of the air, for I am sorry that this is NIV, King James New Version, I am sorry that I have made them. But Noah found favor, verse 8, Noah found favor in the sight of God. The reason why we need to go back on this is that the whole world was corrupt in God's eyes, but there was one guy that found favor in the sight of God.
Yeah.
And this issue of finding favor is also not a new thing.
Yeah.
In our day and time, people find favor with friends.
Yeah.
You know, if you are a very good worker, you find favor with your boss. If you're a very good person in the community will love you. So it's important to know that what you do matters.
But when we were looking at it last week, all Noah did was be born. You know, he was just birthed, and his father Lamech said that he will be, I want to get it his exact words, I think it was either 28, where he was saying that his son Noah, the same shall comfort us and work and toil of our hands, because the ground of which the Lord had cursed.
Right.
But Noah didn't do anything special. So I like you're talking about favor and finding favor in the sight of God. Do you think that God just makes specific humans while he's creating and then send them down with already the idea of like, okay, this is the person I'm hopeful. So when he builds a human and gives them personality, character, do you think he's like trying to be specific with that person? Because apart from everybody else, Noah was just born. So how did he gain favor so fast?
Don't forget about creation. That our original creativity, the creation that started, was that we were made in the image and likeness of God. But one thing God decided not to do was to control our will. And so in the context of talking about your will and my will, it's up to you, the way you want to build your character. And you see, it's always important, the words that comes out of the mouth. According to Lamech, Noah was to bring comfort to them. It's like bringing back hope in a distressful situation. That's the child that that's Lamech is hoping to have. And by virtue of what he had spoken over Noah, the realization of it is beginning to become fruitful in the case of how Noah is connecting with God. This important. The reason why I am throwing emphasis on this is that, and I don't want to. I want this thing to be practical because I don't want it to be too subjective to say it's more religious. But at the same time, many religions give names to people.
Yeah.
Parents give names to their children. Have they ever asked, why do I have this name?
I feel like there are different ways you can find the meaning of your name, and we can probably have a quick look at what Noah means. Noah means rest.
Rest?
So in the first meaning that came up is Noah is believed to come from the Hebrew Noach, meaning rest. It is also the name of a prominent biblical figure, origin Noah, coming from the Hebrew Noach, which means rest.
Yes. So now you see the link. The dad is talking about what? Comfort. All right.
Yes.
When you are in the midst of comfort, you are in your right zone, your comfort zone. You feel good, you feel better. And so that is their hope, that God will bring them rest from the toils of life, their struggles in life. So this is now the pattern that is beginning to manifest.
So I guess, like you say, like parents have a lot of like they have a lot of say so in how they bless their kids through their tongue, because like you were saying, like we see that it means rest, and then in here it says it will bring comfort. So I guess Noah was kind of ordained to do that based off of how his dad probably groomed him. Even maybe his dad kind of groomed him young to kind of be more responsible, maybe be a little bit more careful, and to after seeing all the issues that maybe he had done, like killing people, and seeing how that impacted him, maybe that's how his dad decided, okay, I'm going to raise my son in the opposite and make sure he's more morally right. And God could have possibly seen that and said, okay, I can use this person as a vessel.
Yeah, that's a real a factual point you've brought in, because when you look at what is written, we don't have the story of how he was brought up. We are now looking at him at an adult stage.
Yeah.
Because at this point where God is getting in touch with him, he is now a married person with children. Okay?
Yeah.
And so there is that possibility that Lamech repented of what was going on and decided to use a template of raising Noah into a very special child that will take the fear of God. Remember, the Bible says when Seth was born, the fear of the Lord people started worshiping God.
Yes.
There is a possibility that during that period of time, Lamech also started worshiping God. Okay, so we can see that here. And for for him to be set apart as somebody that found favor in the sight of God must have been something that he may have done by design in his own day and time, because the Bible is saying he was a righteous man in his own generation. So that generation might be the worst generation, but if God can find one, this tells you still that God continues to look out for that one person that he can still walk with. God is still looking out for that one person that he can still deal with. Because that's what I'm seeing here.
I just wanted us to clarify, like, how you gain. The reason I brought it up is that I wanted to clarify how you gain favor in the sight of God, because everybody else was seated, you know, and even he didn't say Seth. He just said Seth was like somebody who came into the earth, and then people started to worship again. So it's like does he pick who is going to be in favor of, or who he favors, or like what would be the because we don't really know how to read his mind, what would be the weight of saying I'm going to favor this person?
I think,
because like I was saying, he was just born. He was just like, his father just gave birth to him just like every other human. What made Noah so special for God to say, okay, I want him to have favor?
Okay, let me bring it to our current situation. Maybe it can throw light. You have a set of children in the house. Each child's got something special or something different. But as parents, for example, there are certain qualities you look out for. Your expectations as a parent from a particular child that you definitely cherish, or you want that child to develop. And so once you see the pattern that you have set in place for your children, and you see one of them moving exactly in that direction, naturally,
so naturally you just favor, because you identify
there is traction. You are doing exactly the kind of things I'm expecting of that. You as a parent, you see that child doing the things exactly you are expecting that child to do. So what happens? That child begins to gain favor from you, whether directly or indirectly. Okay, so that might be, I'm just using that scenario because I don't read God's mind.
Yes.
Yeah, but I'm looking at that when you see that happening, something that child is doing is impressive in the minds of the parent, or in minds of the parents, or the mind of the parent in particular. So you see that child getting something from God.
Okay.
So I believe that's the kind of way that God has been dealing with humanity.
Exactly.
Yeah. If you go through when we begin to go through the Bible, we'll continue to see how God favored a set of people, as we go along.
Yeah, and one point that we made earlier in our discussions was that he uses the rebels to kind of teach lessons.
Yeah.
But I think what I'm starting to realize is that he does favor the gentle-hearted, the good-hearted. So those are born originally just with their favor, and then he uses like the stubborn ones to kind of bring a different type of perspective to mankind.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, and so we see here at this point, if we continue with chapter verse 9, we see here how the word says this is just the genealogy of, that is his family of Noah, wherein Noah himself having 3 sons. Okay. I am not saying he may not have had daughters. I don't want to use that. What I tend to see at times, like I said the last time, is that the male figures are more identified easily than the female figures. I don't want to say God is biased, but at the same time in the scriptures,
in the Bible,
you see some of it mostly coming out. And there's a question to ask, because women might want to say, then where is the place of the woman in Christianity or in the Bible?
It's not like the Bible completely shuts off women. This is just the start. I know there are prominent women throughout the Bible, so I don't think our audience should take offense to that, because there are prominent women in the Bible.
Yes,
coming.
as we go along.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is just the beginning.
Exactly.
We are just at the beginning.
Exactly.
So here we see the genealogy of Noah, his 3 sons, in the persons of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. He gives them to us here, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. We have those 3. And then the Bible goes straight in verse 11 to say the world was corrupt. 11 says, the earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. So God looked upon the earth, and indeed it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on the earth. Yeah, so we see that it was no longer at par with the things, let's say, with the things God was expecting from mankind. Yeah. And originally God said, it repented me that I made man. And when we see this happening, we come to realize that violence and wickedness did not start today. At all. It had been in place long before now.
Yeah.
Violence, of course, could be actions, wicked actions against other people. Maybe one group fighting against the other group. Maybe one set of people killing the others, although it's not expressed here. But violence, in other words, the threat of the peaceful coexistence was no longer there. There was no peaceful coexistence at this point in time.
And I think some of the reasons why this may be happening, and we did do it to ourselves. I mean, the ground was cursed. So if there's competition, there's possibility for violence, because people are like, okay, this is my property, it's fertile.
Yes.
And so territorial
grabbing of territories.
Yeah, territories starts to, you want your territory to be protected, meaning if somebody comes into your land, it's like, okay, now you're trespassing because I take ownership of this land.
Yeah.
So we did do it to ourselves, you know? We did do it to ourselves.
Yes.
And this is not the first time he's talked about how man has just gone totally left, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And now God continues, you see, in every generation, God looks out for some people. He looks out for people that he can deal with. He looks out for people that he can talk to. He looks out of people that he can relate, that can relate to him. He relates to everybody. But it's how do we relate to God? That is important. So in his generation, he found favor. Noah found favor with God. Favor means something you don't desire, but you still get it. That doesn't mean Noah was sinless. That doesn't mean there was not a time when he wouldn't get angry. That doesn't mean there wasn't a time he would not have confrontation or to confront other people, but that maybe his was modest. He may not have been a violent man. And so God saying this time, amongst this set of people, for the way they behave, I think this guy is better off. It's like when people say you take the devil, you know, and then what, shun the angel you don't know. Yeah, so something like this. But what I want us to get clear tonight is this. What I want us to take a look at is, what is God going to do about the situation? What is it that God wants to do about this violent situation? God is not going to look, in this case, God is not looking at it and then giving it a free pass.
Well, let's see what he does, because it's true. I mean we've all read the Noah story, so we know what's to come. But let's see what the Bible says with it word for word, because I mean he has sent down several warnings.
Right.
He has really punished people casually, like say, okay, the ground that you're gonna
walk on
is not gonna work, and he has done a lot of few things, and now it seems like we're coming to the point where he has had it.
He has had enough. He's like, you say, this is enough. I'm going to take action.
Yeah.
You see, and we see it happening even in our current day and time, where some acts of violence, you have to put a stop to it by being brash, you know, not taking it with any light-handedness, but you take iron fist to control certain situations. So I think God in this sense is now using the iron fist. to deal with the situation.
Okay.
And like to clean up the mess that is existing. So God is now saying here, and God said to Noah, verse 13, let's go straight to 13, because 11 and 12 are saying the same thing. But verse 13 says, and God said to Noah, the end of all flesh has come. That is, whatever it is, because of the violence now, like we said the last time, the birds are going to suffer. Everybody is in this one, with the exception of Noah and his family. And he said here, so God looked upon the earth, and indeed it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on the earth. And 13, and God said to Noah, the end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth. This is strong. Very strong words coming here from God. Make yourself. Now God gives. This is the area I rarely want us to think about seriously. And
oh wait, Dad, before we go up, I just want us to clarify this. Was this a message God sent directly to Noah?
Yes, God speaking to Noah now.
Okay, because it kind of did not do a good job of introducing, because when Moses met God, there was an introduction of God, but this one, I just wanted us to clarify, it's direct.
It's telling us that God spoke directly to Noah.
Okay.
This time. And here God is telling Noah the situation.
He's like venting.
Telling him, say, hey, this is what is happening. And now I'm ready to do something. You know, it's just like when you have a family gathering too.
Yeah.
And then you put everybody together.
Yeah.
This has been going on in the house for such and such a time, but now I'm ready to take action.
Exactly.
That is what God is saying now here. I'm the boss and I want to put things under control.
Exactly.
And this is what I'm going to do. It's the same way like when you have corruption in the office and then the CEO comes and say, you know what? Everybody's gone. I'm starting on a new page. So God is about to start something new here. This is important. God is about to start something new. What does that tell us as well? In practical sense. That in your own situation too, let's say for example, you're running a business like we were just saying. You look at the business, you analyze and assess. Is anything good coming out of this business? Is anything good coming out of this venture? What do I need to do to make it better? You know, that gives, what I'm seeing here also is, I'm happy we are discussing, because this gives you a prototype of what the way you administer your own business, your own home, you know, the community you're in. If you're in leadership, what do you do?
It's true.
Do you sit down to wait until the mess continues to destroy the business you have put in place? Or are you going to step up and trash out the mess and put something new in place?
Well, a lot of like leaders, when they go into a new establishment, if it's like a corporation or a country, they usually will fire the entire regime ahead, the regime or whoever was working there in the beginning, and then they will just rehire their own people.
Right.
And that's just the easiest way to clean out the house. Instead of like you saying, okay, I want to see who's doing the hardest work or who's doing, you just fire everyone and start fresh, because you don't know where their loyalty lies. You don't know if they're going to do a good job to you, or you don't know if they're going to continue, they're going to relate with you or see your vision. So a lot of times I think people are hesitant to do new, fresh things. But if you really genuinely want things to change, sometimes you have to cut ties with the people, and even sometimes you just have to move all together. But it's important that you cut ties, because it's the only way, especially if you've been given warnings.
Right.
Especially if you've been saying, hey, things are not getting done. I need them done. And people are not doing what they're supposed to do. That's the only way.
Yes, I'm happy that we're talking about this, and you guys out there, I hope this is bringing some perspective, because the reason why we are having this discussion, we want you to understand that the Bible is practical,
Exactly.
and that it's not just the Holy of Holies we keep talking about here. This is a learning point where maybe you are in charge of something out there, but you are thinking, oh, because I'm a Christian, oh, I don't want people to start saying things about me. If God can purge the world,
You can do it too.
you can do it too.
Yeah,
That doesn't take you away from your Christianity.
exactly.
It gives you, in fact, the mandate to go ahead to clean the house, get things sharpened up, so you get the results you're looking for.
Yeah.
So don't shy away from this kind of
Yeah, I
act.
feel like it's needed.
It's needed.
It's needed when you're ready to do the work of God and you're ready to do your work. No obstacle, not even man, should stand in your way.
Yeah.
And if there are challenges standing in your way, men, women, it doesn't matter. It's important that you let go of those people,
Right.
especially if they won't see your vision.
Thank you.
Now, if your vision is to cause chaos some more, then obviously you're not doing the Christian thing.
Right.
But if your vision is to elevate the process and make people's life a little bit better, then you have to get rid of those who are not ready to go along
With you. Correct. I agree with that. So let's get that as a landing point. But now let's come to the next phase of God has spoken to this guy. And now he's found favor, which is good. We always people talk about favor. I'm looking for favor.
Yeah.
But when we begin to go into this,
We're on 14.
we are on 14. He talks about make yourself. This is the very first time engineering is coming into play in the Bible.
Yes.
The very first time engineering is coming into play in the Bible. So what we see today, the kind of submarines we are seeing today, the kind of floating ships we see today, the design, when I looked at this, I said, this is what? Arc design.
Yes.
I call it the arc design.
Yeah.
But let's go through it so we see exactly. If you can read that, I think you can read that too.
So in 14 it says, make thee an ark of gophers.
Yes, go for
Gopher
wood. Yes.
Rooms shalt thou make in the ark,
Mm-hmm.
and shalt pitch it within and without with pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is 15. And this is the fashion which thou shalt make it of.
Yes.
So now he's about to give blueprints.
Blueprints. Exactly like we call it. What do you call it today? We call it. Is it the 3D?
Yes,
the
the drafts.
The draft 3D
yeah.
of the kind of thing you want to see. Now, this is so powerful that God already got a design. And he had already set up a design in advance of this thing coming. So this is a mind blowing that God thinks in advance of, in the midst of every point where he wants to bring destruction or clean up, he has a better plan.
It's kind of weird that he did not tell us if this was a dream or if this was him just sitting somewhere and getting it. Because there's so many scientists who have come and gone, and they were just hanging out and they saw something, and then they started the process of like understanding it. But that wisdom, mankind, we usually just give the credit to the scientist and say, oh, this person invented this, or this person invented that. But how come because it must have been from some source.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It
Right.
has to have come, because how do you sit, like how I don't know who discovered gravity, but how do you just sit and say, okay, I must test this out? It's almost like you are minding your business and a voice says it in your mind and you go, oh, because this is what's about to happen here.
Yes.
He one day in his life, he has never thought, okay, I'm gonna build a ship and it's gonna be functioning.
Right.
This is something he was minding his business. We don't know what kind of job he was doing, so
Yes, that's a good pointer. The reason why that's a good pointer, it tells us that when you, the individual, has a divine connection with God, God gives you a revelation and a vision. amongst the lot in his day, that revelation regarding what is to come, it has not happened yet, regarding what is to come, was as a result of his connectivity with God. The scientists, I don't know whether this guy was quietly sitting down just contemplating around when God brought that information to him, but it tells you that there is a moment where you have to listen. You have to listen. There is a voice that may be speaking to you, that you have to take note of what is being dropped into your mindset. And just don't walk away. Just don't shy away from it. Begin to develop that kind of thing that is coming. If it is a voice you hear, I'm not saying all kinds of voice to go tell you do wickedness or go kill yourself. That's not what I'm talking about. But if it is a voice that you hear that gives you a kind of directive to good things, let's be specific here. Directives to good things.
And sometimes it's not even like a voice. It's an impression.
That's how it happens.
And sometimes, because even I have experienced it, where if I'm trying to solve a problem, okay, and I'm testing things out, something in me directs me to a certain spot that maybe I haven't looked at, that makes me go, oh, okay, I haven't looked here, let me look here. So it's an impression. It's not necessarily like you hear voices in your head, more of like, have you checked that?
Right.
You know, or if you're walking home from school,
something drops into your mind.
Or maybe you spotted something and you're like, wait, I'm not used to seeing that there, let me look into it. Not necessarily always a voice in your head. Sometimes it is, but most of the time it's like, I feel like it's an impression.
Yeah, well, that's still, like I was saying, when you are connected, that impression comes in. That it may be a voice, it may be an impression, it may be maybe just a dream. Those things will drop into you. And if you hold them seriously and begin to run with them, it gives you the kind of results that you see at the far end.
Swear in 15.
Yes.
And this is the fashion which thou shalt make it of. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, the breadth of it 50 cubits, and the height of it 30 cubits. And in my Bible it says cubits is about 18 inches.
What you see here is God gives a prototype, specifics, what to do, measurements. Now you see, those who are talking about science, God is a super scientist.
Exactly.
He's a super scientist here. He knows what he wants. He's exactly given to Noah what he should do, the type of materials to use. We are seeing that coming out in play here.
So that, do you think, because like I said, we tend to credit these things to the scientists who bring it onto Earth. But do you think some of the key things that have happened in our lives technologically, do you feel as though God kind of played a role in kind of bringing those out? Because he's kind of guiding the way man must go?
I believe God is in it. I believe God is in it. The reason why I say God is in it, number one, the creation of the human being itself. That alone, the design of human being is unique. That's why the Bible says we are wonderfully and fearfully made. It is this human being that you see sitting down here can use this body to do any kind of thing. Look at the gymnastics, those who do those things. Look at the way they stretch themselves. It is just the same body. Others use the mind. So to me, if that person was not created, that person was not born, then that wouldn't have come into play.
That's
where I want.
That's what I was trying to get at.
Right.
I feel as though, because I think it's Jeremiah that says, before I was born, before I was even conceived, God knew me. So
yes.
Free will exists, but we are kind of being moved in a trajectory because he is allowing certain individuals to be birthed.
Yes.
at key moments.
Right.
At very key moments. Some of them are evil leaders who have been birthed.
Yes.
But because they were birthed, they give new ideas to us and how we should be. So I think sometimes, because of God is still writing how we're going to end, there is a possibility that he is giving us, just few people here and there, because he wants to change. Whenever he wants to change, he brings a new human who is about to do it.
Right. Right. He sets things in motion.
Exactly.
The Bible is deep. It talks about a lot of things wherein God governs the universe. He governs the universe.
So
he governs the nations.
It's so funny that we feel as though we're just doing this on our own.
That's the concept of some people.
Yeah,
but
if you were not feel that way.
If you were not born, you wouldn't think.
That is true. That is true.
You see, so this is so unique in terms of God giving us the kind of materials, the kind of specifications, and if you continue to read, if you can, you will see further what God is saying.
It says, "A window shalt thou make to the ark, and it's a cubit shalt thou finish it above." So like a skylight.
Yes, sky kind of opening.
"And the door of the ark shalt thou set in the side thereof with lower, second, and third stories." Oh my God.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. This is a design. And when you look at the cruise ships today, what do you see?
It's the same. First floor,
second, third floor, and the basement.
Yes.
It's happening. So the whole scientific design in terms of shipbuilding and submarines and all of these things we talk about in our day and time is definitely already, for the first time, we see it in the scriptures. So engineering started already in the Bible before ever the engineers came into being. This is the prototype I believe most of those shipbuilders started off with. Those who may have read the Bible, or those who have sat to think about how they can design, this is pure design. I wish somebody would come and use this design again like God gave to Noah, to rebuild it.
It's so specific. Though.
Yes.
It's very specific.
Tells where to put the doors, where to put the windows. But here is one thing I continue to read, because there is something I want us to talk about here.
And then in 17 it says, "And behold, and it says, behold, even I, do bring a flood of water upon the earth to destroy all flesh, wherein is the breath of life from under heaven, and everything that is in it, the earth shall die."
Yes.
Wow.
But continue. So that we can discuss
in
it.
18, "But with thee will I establish my covenant, and thou shalt come into the ark, thou and thy sons and thy wife and thy sons' wives with thee. And of every living thing of all flesh, 2 of every sort shalt thou bring into the ark to keep them alive with thee. They shall be male and female."
Correct. The reason why we see this side of it, very important. One, this is the very first time God is establishing a covenant, an agreement with human being.
Contract.
It's like a contract. A covenant is it's different.
Oh.
It's different.
Okay.
A contract can
expire. You want to explain to our...
When you talk about a covenant, it's an agreement between you and God, where God says, "I will support you in this to achieve it." A covenant does not have a termination point.
Oh, wow.
A contract has a termination point.
Yeah.
So when we get into relationship with God, we get into a covenant relationship with God, not a contract relationship with God. This is important to note. This is the very first time God is establishing. That means you agree with me that you work in partnership with me for us to have this done. It is in this particular chapter of the Bible where that agreement between God and man, God is now consulting man. to say, are you willing to walk with me?
Yeah.
This is what I want to do. Are you willing to walk with me? But all prior to this time, God did not have a covenant with who?
With anyone.
Adam and Eve. There was no covenant. Came over to Cain and Abel. There was no covenant. You come to Lamech and others, no covenant. But here in chapter 6, God goes into, it's like, let us talk. Now let's sit down and talk. This is the situation. Are you in agreement with me to get this done? That's what you see God stressing here to Noah. That I want to. Are you ready to walk with me in this situation? And now he tells him exactly, I will start a new thing with you. But these set of people, they gotta go. The same thing with your boss calling you.
Yeah.
Sees you as a potential person and doesn't want to get rid of you because of observing you as a good person doing the right thing. He calls you in confidence. This is really in confidence, because this was not even disclosed to the family of Noah. It was just Noah. It's like your boss calling you in. I want to have a talk with you. The company, I don't want the company to go down, but I realize that I can count on you. This is what I want to do. Can you stand with me to get this done? So it's also another practical thing in our everyday life. You, the Christian, if you see somebody out there you think you can count on, you can trust, don't let that person go. If you know the potentials of that individual, build that person up, bring that person into agreement with you to see your vision and see if they can walk with you. But don't victimize that person because others have failed you. Try to identify the ones that are good among the way. It's like harvest time. That's coming up in the future. When judgment comes in, he says what? The sheep will be on one side and the goats will be on one side, right? That's something that you should be thinking about. So here God is about to bring judgment upon the earth, but in the midst of this judgment, he goes into agreement with one person to build this ark. And see what he tells them to do. He says, do what?
And of every living thing of all flesh, 2 of every sort shalt thou bring into the ark, to keep them alive with thee. They shall be male and female.
That is, God is now anticipating regeneration. So after this destruction, there is a preservation. I'm preserving a remnant. I'm preserving a remnant. That doesn't mean that this remnant does not have elements of corruption in them, but that when this element, this remnant that is put together, you see, this is powerful. When this remnant that is put together see what I have done to those who existed before them, when they come out, they will think twice before they do anything.
I don't know, because we're back at it again.
Well, that is human being. That is the human being.
He had high hopes, but we are back at it again.
Yes, that's the human being. But you see God preserving this. You look at any disaster that happens, we will see the flood. But when you look at any disaster that happens, after the disaster, there is a change in the attitude of some people, not all. Some people will definitely look at this and say, I thank God that I was spared. Let me change my attitude. Let me change my behavior. So you see it here as well. So as we go along the line, we begin to see, and so male and female God decided to take. That is for regeneration, to reproduce afterwards. Okay? So here the whole process is about, God is about to unleash. But my question is, the ark was built. Was there light in the ark?
Yeah, but he said he bet the skylights.
On the rain?
Oh.
under the rain? That popped in my mind. And then I started thinking that God says he is the light. Does that mean God created a special light within that place?
We don't know.
But the Bible is not talking about it.
That's true. Oh, well, you did say it was going to be raining heavy, so it
Heavily.
would have been dark.
Yes. So
But even-
how did they coexist?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
These are questions I keep asking. Why? Because this is, I think somewhere in the book of Isaiah where God said the lion will sleep together with this other animals that never used to coexist. The Bible speaks of them coming to live together. And here I see, take for example the snake and the rat.
No, I see what you're saying.
Yes, you see the snake and the rat living in the same ark.
But in the Bible, there have been many times where God has kind of tempered down animals.
Yeah.
Like tempered their
Yeah,
their instincts.
by his power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While things were going on.
Yes. So here we see them coming together. In the dark, was it dark throughout in the ark? How did they feed? But he told him to put enough food in there. We don't know the number of animals. The Bible is silent about the number of animals. What we know is that these animals were in twos. And how long did he collect them? We don't know. Only that the Bible talks about this.
It must have been a hard preparation.
This must have been a serious preparation.
And I wonder, well, let's continue. Let me not ask too many questions just
Yes.
because I was going to say, and I wonder what the people around him were doing.
No, you will see that they didn't care.
I was like, if I see somebody building a random act, I'm going to have to ask.
Especially when there is no rain.
Exactly. Like, where are you going, sir?
Yes.
We're not by the sea.
Exactly. To see what's going on
What's
here.
going on here?
Yeah.
We are not by the
Yeah.
sea.
Yeah. It's so many few questions you can ask in this situation here, like you've seen in the scriptures there as you're reading through. These animals were to come and live together. And it talks about rooms. How many rooms in there? How big were these rooms? How accommodating were these rooms? In this, what was the atmosphere like in the ark? Was it peaceful? This is, I'm sorry, but this is just our imagination coming into play.
Yeah.
But these are questions we need to ask. That tells you how powerful God is. That in the midst of such a situation of different dynamics playing here, different energies coming here, but him being the God above everything is able to put these things under control.
And sometimes what I've realized is when God say go, he doesn't always give you all of the answers. He doesn't always tell you go and you will land in A. He will give you the direction, and when you get to A, he'll be like, okay, this is A, so
Right.
calm down and we can continue further.
Right.
So you have, this is faith that he used.
Yes.
Because one, what are people going to think? I'll be mostly thinking, what are people going to think about me? This
Yes.
is random. I don't live by the sea. Why are you telling me to build an ark, you know?
Right.
And because, but that will be it. So sometimes I feel like when God say go, you just have to obey
Believe.
and believe.
Yes.
And he didn't have, honestly, I don't think Noah had questions. He was just like, okay, if I'm hearing this, then there's something. And he probably had conviction to say, I want my family to leave, and if this is what's going to happen, I don't want to be wiped out with them. Because what if he
Yes.
was stubborn?
Yes.
We won't be here.
The reason why this is important for us to note again is that when God is speaking, he speaks to individuals. When he's giving assignments, he is specific. And I don't want to bring myself into the scenario, but I can tell you something, that even where we are right now came as a revelation. Because he spoke to me specifically where to go. And he said something that where I will send you will be your springboard to other places. When the words came to me about that time, nobody was with me. I was the only person spoken to with that instruction. This was a time when you would say there is impossibility in existence. If we sit behind these mics today, the time he spoke to me, he never told me we would sit behind mics.
Exactly.
If we can move in a vehicle today, the time he spoke to me, there was no vehicle. This is just to parallel what you're saying. But when you listen to that voice and you obey, you begin to see things happening. You begin to see things falling in place, step by step along the way. This guy, Noah, may have got this voice from the Lord and decided to obey. Not looking at the family. I don't know what the family was thinking about. I don't know what his children were thinking about. I don't know what his daughter-in-laws were thinking about. His wife was thinking about. But this man just went to work and started doing what God told him. So you also, the Christian out there, it could be for you too. Maybe God had laid something in your heart and says to you, I want you to go and do this. My encouragement to you is obey. Obey. Just follow, even if you call it blind following. Follow that blind following with faith, trusting that this is God leading you to that place.
And sometimes it comes once or twice, you know. And the more you don't listen, the more it will keep coming.
Yes.
And you keep feeling it harder and harder and harder.
Yeah. It continues to give you that impression. And so this is practical Christianity we are talking about here. God relating with man, giving man specifics what to do. And now God brings it to the point. You see, you don't want to keep waiting until you see the thing happen in the negative and they say, had I known. Had I known. And it's too late. And the reason I bring these things up is this. When the war was in Sierra Leone, I don't want to bring it, but I have to, because this helps us to understand better. When the war was in Sierra Leone and it was moving down to the city, on my way one evening, God said to me, when you go this night, anoint every part of your home, the doors, the windows, the gates. And that night when I went into my house, I did exactly what the Lord told me to do. Little did I know that the next day, the rebels were going to be in the city that very night. And at the end of the day, God secured us out of that place safely, and here we are. So this is important. I hope people can learn from this, because that's the reason we are discussing. God goes into covenants with people. God goes into agreement with you.